Today we are going to be reading chapters 9 and 10 of Mummies in the Morning. We are going to be finishing up the book. Unfortunately, this is going to be our last video together. That makes me really sad. I've really enjoyed making all of these videos and doing all these read-alouds and reading all of these different books with all of you, so I really hope that you have enjoyed listening and reading these books as well with me, and I hope you've enjoyed the videos as well. I've tried to keep them interesting for you guys with the memes. So this will be my last meme that I have for you. So we ended chapter 8 with Jack and Annie. It says Jack and Annie turned around, they looked up the stairs, and they watched in horror as the door slowly creaked shut. A deep sound rumbled in the distance, and all the torches went out. And you made a prediction. So now we're going to see if your prediction is right. So we're going to be reading chapters 9, Follow the Leader, and chapter 10, whoops, sorry guys, Another Clue. So here goes chapter 9. Follow the Leader. It was pitch dark. What happened? Asked Annie. I don't know. Something weird, said Jack. We have to get out of here fast. Push against the door. Good idea, said Annie in a small voice. They felt their way through the darkness to the top of the stairs. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay, said Jack. He was trying to stay calm. Of course, said Annie. They leaned against the wooden door and pushed. It wouldn't budge. They pushed harder. No use. Jack took a deep breath. It was getting harder to breathe and harder to stay calm. What can we do? Asked Annie. Just rest a moment, said Jack, panting. His heart was pounding as he tried to see through the darkness. Maybe we should start down the hall, he said. Maybe we'll eventually come to an exit. He wasn't sure about that. They had no choice. Come on, he said. Feel the wall. Jack felt the stone wall as he climbed slowly down the stairs. Annie followed. Jack started down the dark hallway. It was impossible to see anything, but he kept going, taking one step at a time, moving his hands along the wall. He went around a corner. He went around another corner. He came to some stairs. He went up. There was a door. He pushed against it. Annie pushed too. This door wouldn't budge either. Was this the same door they had started at? It was no use. They were trapped. Annie took his hand in the dark. She squeezed it. They stood together at the top of the stairs, listening to the silence. Meow. Oh, man, Jack whispered. He's back, said Annie. Meow. Follow him, cried Jack. He's going away from us. They started down the hallway, following the cat's meow. Hands against the wall, Jack and Annie stumbled through the darkness. Meow. They followed the sound all the way through the winding hallway, down, around one corner, then another, and another. Finally, they saw a light at the end of the tunnel. They rushed forward, out into the bright sunlight. Yay, Annie shouted, but Jack was thinking. Annie, he said, how did we get out of the false passage? The cat, said Annie. How could the cat do it? Asked Jack. Magic, said Annie. Jack frowned. But, look, said Annie. She pointed. The cat was bounding away, over the sand. Thank you, called Annie. Thanks, Jack shouted at the cat. His black tail waved, then he disappeared in the shivering waves of heat. Jack looked toward the palm trees. At the top of one sat the treehouse, like a bird's nest. Time to go home, Jack said. He and Annie set off for the palm trees. It was a long, hot walk back. At last, Annie grabbed onto the rope ladder, then Jack. Once they were inside the treehouse, Jack reached for the book about Pennsylvania. Just then he heard a rumbling sound, the same sound they heard in the pyramid. Look, Annie said, pointing out the window. Jack looked. A boat was beside the pyramid. It was gliding over the sand, like a boat sailing over the sea. Then it faded away into the distance. Was it just a mirage? Or was the ghost queen finally on her way back to the next life? Home, Jack, whispered Annie. Jack opened the Pennsylvania book. He pointed to the picture of Frog Creek. I wish we could go home, he said. The wind began to blow. The leaves began to shake. The wind blew harder. It whistled louder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. 10. Another clue. Late morning sunlight shone through the treehouse window. Shadows danced on the walls and ceilings. Jack took a deep breath. He was lying on the floor of the treehouse. I wonder what Mom's making for lunch, said Annie. She was looking out the window. Jack smiled. Lunch. Mom. Home. It all sounded so real, so calm and safe. I hope it's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, he said. He closed his eyes. The wood floor felt cool. Boy, this place is a mess, said Annie. We'd better make it neater in case M comes back. Jack had almost forgotten about M. Would they ever meet the mysterious M, the person who seemed to own all the books in the treehouse? Let's put the Egypt book on the bottom of the pile, said Annie. Good idea, said Jack. He needed a rest before he visited any more ancient tombs. Let's put the dinosaur book on top of the Egypt book, said Annie. Yeah, good, said Jack, in a long rest before he visited another Tyrannosaurus Rex. The castle book can go on the very top of the pile, said Annie. Jack nodded and smiled. He liked thinking about the knight on the cover of the castle book. He felt as if the knight were his friend. Jack, said Annie. Look! She opened her eyes. She was pointing at the wooden floor. What is it? He asked. You have to see for yourself. Jack groaned as he got up. He stood next to Annie and looked at the floor. He didn't see anything. Turn your head a little, said Annie. You have to catch the light just right. Jack tipped his head to one side. Something was shining on the floor. He tipped his head a bit more. A letter came into focus. The letter M. It shimmered in the sunlight. This proved the treehouse belonged to M. Absolutely, for sure. No question. No doubt about it. Jack touched the M with his finger. His skin tingled. Just then the leaves trembled. The wind picked up. Let's go down now, he said. Jack grabbed his backpack. Then he and Annie climbed down the ladder. As they stood on the ground below the tree house, Jack heard a sound in the bushes. Who's there? He called. The woods grew still. I'm going to bring the medallion back soon, Jack said loudly. And the bookmark, too. Both of them tomorrow. Who are you talking to? Asked Annie. I feel like M is nearby, Jack whispered. Annie's eyes grew wide. Should we look for him? But just then their mother's voice came from the distance. Jack! Annie! Jack and Annie looked around at the trees. Then they looked at each other. Tomorrow, they said together. And they took off, running out of the woods. They ran down their street. They ran across their yard. They ran into their house. They ran into their kitchen. They ran right into their mom. She was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That concludes chapters 9 and 10 and the entirety of the book, Mummies in the Morning. Based off the last chapter, we know that someone owns a treehouse whose name begins with an M. And Jack and Annie feel like, well, Jack feels like he's close by because he feels like somebody is watching him, and he heard a sound in the bushes, so he heard someone or something there. So he thinks that M is nearby. And so he's again talking about returning the medallion back soon and the bookmark, which must be from a different book because this is the third book. But anyways, that concludes chapters 9 and 10. It's been really fun reading this story with you guys. Check out on Google Forms. There will be some questions on chapters 9 and 10 of Mummies in the Morning.